Everyone at the table felt it. That eerie, quiet presence. No emotion, no ego. Just focus. Peter Eastgate was not your typical poker pro. He was 22 years old, looked like a college kid, and in interviews he called himself lazy. But when the cards hit the felt, he became something else entirely. They called him the Iceman, not because he was cool, but because he showed nothing. Not a blink, not a smile, even when millions of dollars were on the line. In a room full of legends, he was the outsider, the kid with everything to prove. And in 2008, at the biggest poker tournament in the world, he didn't just show up, he showed out and crushed the table with silence, patience, and deadly precision. By the end, the pros weren't just outplayed, they were outclassed. So now the question is, how did a so-called lazy kid become the coldest champion poker had ever seen? Nearly 7,000 players entered the World Series of Poker main event in 2008. Each one paid $10,000 for a seat, chasing fame, glory, and a top prize worth over $9 million. And among them sat one of the quietest competitors the tournament had ever seen, Peter Eastgate, 22 years old, from Denmark. No big-name sponsors, no intimidating table presence. But what he lacked in hype, he made up for with complete emotional control. They called him the Iceman, not because he was cool under pressure, but because he showed nothing at all. No nerves, no celebration, just stillness. Then came his first major hand, against a seasoned pro, Chino Ream. Ream was short-stacked and running out of time, so when he picked up Ace-King, he shoved all his chips in without blinking. Eastgate looked down at Ace-Queen, not a hand most players want to risk it all with, but he understood the situation. Ream was desperate, and desperate players shove wide. Eastgate called. The flop? A queen. Eastgate took the lead and never let go. Turn, 9, river, 4. Ream was eliminated in 7th place, and the table got quiet. It was a message. This kid wasn't scared. He was here to win. Next up, Dennis Phillips, the chip leader, a fan favorite with a red baseball cap and an aggressive style. He'd been steamrolling the table, raising and re-raising like he owned it. But Eastgate wasn't impressed. He picked up pocket aces. Instead of going all in, he made a small raise, inviting Phillips to attack. Phillips looked down at ace-jack suited and took the bait. He re-raised. Eastgate just called. The flop came king, deuce, 6, a dry board. Phillips checked. Eastgate fired a small bet. Phillips smelled weakness and launched a massive raise. But Eastgate wasn't bluffing. He shoved all in. Phillips hesitated, then folded. He never saw the aces. Eastgate, still no emotion, just calmly stacking chips. In less than an hour, he'd taken down a pro, baited the chip leader, and proved that stillness isn't weakness, it's power. Peter Eastgate wasn't just getting lucky, he was playing every hand with surgical precision. His next big moment came against Scott Montgomery, a Canadian pro known for fighting his way back from impossible spots. But this time, Montgomery was out of time and nearly out of chips. Eastgate looked down at pocket sixes. Montgomery held ace-3. It wasn't a premium hand, but when you're that short-stacked, you don't wait for perfect. Montgomery shoved all in. Eastgate called without flinching. The flop came ace, 4, queen. Montgomery jumped ahead with top pair. The turn brought another ace, giving him trips. Eastgate was nearly drawing dead. Just 2 cards in the entire deck could save him. And then, it came. The river, a 6th. The crowd erupted. Montgomery was crushed. And for the first time, Eastgate stood up, emotion briefly breaking through that frozen facade. It was a miracle card. But more importantly, it kept his momentum alive. Then came Ivan Demidov, a Russian phenom with a deep run in the World Series of Poker Europe just weeks earlier. Sharp, fearless, and always calculating. Demidov limped into the pot holding king-7 suited. Eastgate checked with 3-2 offsuit, one of the worst hands in poker, but the flop came 7, 3, 6. Demidov had top pair. Eastgate had bottom pair. Eastgate led out with a small bet, Demidov called. The turn? A king. Now Demidov had two pairs. He checked again, perhaps trying to trap, but Eastgate checked behind, earning himself a free card. The river, a 3. Eastgate hit a full house. Demidov bet half the pot, trying to extract value. But Eastgate didn't just call, he raised. Big. Demidov looked confused. He studied the Dane's still face. Was this a bluff? A bold move with nothing? After a long pause, he folded. Eastgate scooped the pot with the worst starting hand imaginable. The message was clear. Even with garbage, this kid could kill you. Then came a masterclass in trap setting against Elon Schwartz. Eastgate picked up pocket fives and raised. Schwartz, holding ace-10, made the call. The flop came deuce, king, 8. Schwartz missed. He checked. Eastgate checked behind. The turn? Another king. Now Eastgate had two pairs. Schwartz checked again. Eastgate bet small. Schwartz called, still hoping to catch something. Then came the river, a 5. Full house for Eastgate. Schwartz checked. Eastgate dropped a massive overbet into the middle, over 4 million. It screamed strength. Schwartz should have known he was beat, but maybe frustration kicked in. He shoved all in. With ace high, Eastgate snap called and turned over the nuts. The crowd exploded. Schwartz was eliminated in 4th place. But Eastgate, still ice cold. Hand after hand, he wasn't just winning, he was controlling the pace, dictating the action, and reading his opponents like open books. He had taken out veterans, humiliated bullies, and crushed the hopeful. Now only 2 opponents stood between him and the title. One was a crowd favorite, the other was a mirror. Ivan Demidov. Calm, calculated, cold-blooded. It was a perfect final act waiting to happen. But the real question now wasn't whether Peter Eastgate could win. It was how far he could push the limits of discipline, silence, and mental warfare. The stage was set. 3 players left: Peter Eastgate, Ivan Demidov, and Dennis Phillips. Phillips was the oldest, the fan favorite, but his stack was shrinking fast. Eastgate held pocket 3s. The flop came, another 3, a set. Phillips, with 10-9 offsuit, was stuck. He shoved all in, desperate. Eastgate called without hesitation. No miracle came for Phillips. He bowed out in 3rd place, earning more than $4 million. The crowd gave him a standing ovation, but the focus shifted quickly back to Eastgate and Demidov. The final battle was on. Demidov opened with ace-9. Eastgate peaked at 7-4 of diamonds, trash to most. But the flop? 10, king, 7 of clubs. Eastgate paired his 7 and picked up a flush draw. Instead of betting, Eastgate checked, baiting Demidov into a trap. The turn brought the jack of diamonds. Eastgate's flush completed. Demidov raised aggressively. Eastgate called. The river was a blank, a 3 of spades. Eastgate checked again. Demidov, convinced Eastgate was weak, shoved all in. Without missing a beat, Eastgate snap called. His flush held. Demidov folded. The crowd exploded. Peter Eastgate, the 22-year-old Iceman, was crowned World Series of Poker champion. He took home over $9 million, but more than money, he earned respect, the ultimate prize in poker. How does a quiet kid from Denmark outclass the best in the world? By staying cool, reading people, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. So the real question is, could you keep your cool when millions are on the line? Peter Eastgate's story didn't end here. Just 1 year later, another young player shattered records and shocked the poker world. Want to see how Joe Cada pulled off the greatest comeback in World Series history? Click on the next video to witness a roller coaster of epic plays, bold bluffs, and heart-stopping moments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the most insane poker stories ever told. Are you ready to learn from the legends and maybe become the next poker champion? Let's dive in.